In this third part of Unit 5 discussion, we are going to discuss completely about the fire hazards. So we are going to see about the different types of fire which can lead to different types of hazards, and then we are going to discuss about some fireproofing materials, firefighting equipments, and what are the fire safety preventions and protection measures that we can make in order to successfully overcome this dangerous hazards named as fire hazards. So let's start with the basic introduction. So fire hazards, it may not be a single material, it may not be a single substance, even it may be an action, which will increase the likelihood of an accidental fire, which we can term it as the fire hazard. And most of the time, this fire hazards can be very serious enough to cause a threat to the life and properties of human life. So what should be our prime motive? The prime motive of all the safety system that is present in the world is to detect properly the fire, and then we need to remove the fire, and also we have to enable ourselves to reduce the risk of fire at all probabilities. And what are the possible common causes for the fire hazards? The first and foremost possible causes will be a very simple thing like cooking and then smoking, which we usually do in our home and outside the homes. And the other important causes for the fire accident is electrical equipments. So whenever the electrical equipments is experiencing some loose connections, high loads, then there also we have the probability for the fire outbreak to happen. And then some of the other mechanical works like welding, cutting, metal casting, they can also result in the fire hazards. And improper storage of flammable and hazardous material is also another important cause for the fire outbreak to happen. And always whenever a building is built, it should properly constructed in a way that all the fire safety codes are properly maintained. But most of the cases in a developing country like India, these fire safety codes are violated. That also leads to a major outbreak of fire accidents. Okay, so these are the some of the common causes of the fire hazards to happen. Let's move on to explain about the classification of fire hazards. First classification is class A fires, which is usually due to a very ordinary materials such as wood, paper, trash, or something or anything that leaves the ash. And what is the best remedy for class A fires? The best remedy is to pour some water on it. Put water, stop it. Very simple. The next thing, class B fires, which is usually due to the flammable liquids that like oils and then gasoline and then other type of similar materials related to oils and gasoline things. And what the remedy is to, we need to enable the smoothing effects which can deplete the supply of oxygen to the fire. The third class of fire accident is class C fires, which is due to the electrical connections, and here we can use the electrical, I mean fire fighting equipment like fire extinguishers, in special especially CO2 extinguishers. Then comes class D fires, which is due to the metals. So metal fires are very dangerous, and the best remedy to put off the metal fires is to use the dry powder agents. And next comes class K fires, which involve the cooking oil, animal fat, etc. And we can use the agents like purple K in order to overcome this class of fires. And on the other hand, you also have the classification of fire hazards on another note, like exposure hazard, which is the fire hazard that spreads into the building through the open air. And you have the internal hazards which happen inside a building itself. And also when you say a fire hazard to be a personal hazard, then it means that it has caused some significant loss and damage to the personal life of an individual. Okay, next let's move into the discussion about the fire protection. So what is fire protection is all about? So it refers the measures and practices for preventing or reducing the injury and loss of life or property by fire. So simply, it is a measure which is taken to prevent ourselves from any loss that can happen due to a fire hazard. Okay, so this is what called as fire protection. And there are three basic essentials that we must have idea we must have in order to do this fire production process successfully. The first one is study of fire, and the second one active fire production, and the third one is passive fire production. So first, what is study of fire? Study of fire is very simply learning the possible causes of fire, and then we need to know about clearly about the fire extinguishing techniques and what principle all these fire extinguishing the devices work. All this basic knowledge we must know, and we should also know about the rules and regulations, or in other words fire safety codes, which are involved in the construction of buildings. And then active fire protection, which involves the manual or automatic detection of fire, and then the proper use of fire and smoke alarms, and then firefighting and first aid equipments. Next, passive fire protection. It involves the design of buildings and infrastructure in a proper way in order to overcome any fire outbreak that can happen in the future. Okay, while designing this type building itself, we must properly plan, okay, in case of any fire hazards happening in this building, then a proper exit should be there for large number of people to easily move out of the building. So all these kind of planning should get into, and that can happen in this stage of passive fire protection. And fireproofing material is the next topic, which is directly or simply referred as those materials which are resistant to fire outbreaks. They will be termed as fireproof materials. And a material to be called as fireproof material, it should have some basic properties. What are those properties? The strength of the material should be high even at a very high temperature. This is first thing. And the second one, the material should not break down and it should not disintegrate under the impact of high temperature. Almost this point is directly related to the first point, exhibiting the highest strength at a very high temperature. And the fireproofing material should be non-flammable as much as possible. And then the fireproof material should be designed in such a way to maintain their durability, strength, and structural integrity as that temperature rises. So always the quality of the material should also be very good. And then you also have the natural fibers like wools and cottons, which can be treated with fireproof materials and chemicals to provide the effective fire resistance process. Okay, what are the applications of fireproofing material? Obviously it is to resist ourselves from fire accidents. So apart from that, let's see some practical examples. So we have refinery workers, maintenance workers, power and electric utility workers who wears this fireproof clothing in order to equip them efficiently against the fire outbreaks. And you have the usage of fire blankets, which is usually made of fiberglass for the smaller household kitchen fires that can happen inside the building. And also fireproof materials are used to build the walls of a building. These material will be mixed with building materials, and by using them we are going to construct some walls so that the walls of the building will become fireproof. And we also have the other type of fireproof building materials that are used in interiors, exteriors, roofs of a house, such as cast iron, steel brick, stone, concrete, and then fireproof wood products. And finally, asbestos cement products were also widely used, but now it is no longer used as it was found to be a carcinogen, a product that can cause to health issues related to the human life, namely cancer. Okay, now let's move on to the fire safety. So fire safety is another term which refers to the planning and infrastructure in an organization that designed to reduce the fire and their effects. So when you say fire safety, that comes another important term, fire safety regulations, which refers to the certain rules which has to be followed in various places like homes, kitchen, theaters, hotel, in order to avoid the fire accidents. So first one, in home and other places. What are the ways by which we can follow some basic rules which can efficiently enable us to prevent the fire outbreaks? Let's see one by one. So first thing, stoves, that is gas stoves, should be placed on the raised platform and it should not be kept on the ground. Okay, and do not keep a lighted burner or stove near the gas cylinder, and the regulator of the gas cylinder should be properly closed when it is not in use, and we need to periodically replace the rubber tubes which we use for the gas regulators, and then connect only one electric plug in a socket. The other way around, it is going to cause some problems. Okay, and in case of any gas leak, the first thing that we must do is we need to open windows and doors properly so that the gas leak will get exposed into the outside air. And we should not take any inactive flame if we smell a gas leak, and we should also not switch on any electrical equipments whenever a gas leak is available. And in cinema hall, first and foremost, once we enter the cinema hall, we must properly have a clear idea of the normal exit and the emergency exit. And in case of any fire outbreak, we must make sure ourselves to rush as much as possible towards the emergency exit, and we must come out of it. As we always say, during the crisis time, we should first keep ourselves calm and we should not get panic. And it is well said that due to the reason that smoke was very light, it is going to go in up in air. So at the higher level, the sight or our vision will be very low, and therefore it is always advisable to crawl with our hands whenever the smoke is happening in any region. Okay, and we should not smoke in toilet, and we should also properly locate the place of fire extinguishers once we enter the cinema hall. All these safety precautions or regulations almost is applicable to the big hotels or small hotels for that matter. So we need to ask the room service boy about the ordinary and sorry, emergency exit. And electrical equipment must not be adjusted for our convenience. So keeping going out of the way in order to change the control of AC or any other electrical equipment is always going to put us in trouble. Okay, so if we want to make any corrections or any changes related to the electrical equipments available in hotel rooms, we must first ask the proper person, concerned person in the hotel, and then we must act. So without their knowledge, it is not advised to do all such stuff. And we should not smoke inside the room in bed, and we need to leave the hotel by staircase in case of any fire outbreaks. And always it is advisable to crawl with hands while leaving out of the hotel. Next comes the most important topic in this particular session, which is firefighting equipment. So it is the device or instrument which fights fire, which means which is going to rescue the people and protect our valuable goods and natural resources from fire. They are generally called as firefighting equipment. Examples: fire extinguishers, fire alarm systems, fire trucks, firefighting trains, fire boats, and then firefighting aeroplanes and helicopters. And there are different types of fire extinguishers available. At first place, what are fire extinguishers? A fire extinguisher is an firefighting equipment which is used to fight fire or extinguish fire, put off the fire. To put off the fire, we are using an equipment which is technically named as fire extinguishers. And there are a lot of different types of fire extinguishers available, like water extinguishers, which is used for class A fires, and then carbon dioxide extinguishers, which is used to put off the class B or class C fires, foam extinguishers used for class A or class B, powder extinguishers used for commonly for all the classes of fires, and then ABC fire extinguishers, wet chemical extinguishers, and finally fire blankets. Okay, and let's go into the details about one of the important most popularly used fire extinguishers, which is carbon dioxide fire extinguishers. And usually carbon dioxide fire extinguishers are red in color, and they range in size from 5 to 100 lbs or a larger weight. Okay, and the schematic representation of representation involved in the construction of a fire extinguishers. In particular, carbon dioxide fire extinguisher is depicted in this first picture, where we can clearly see a chamber which is filled with the liquefied carbon dioxide, And then above that, at the entry point, we have a device to measure the pressure value. Above that, we have a safety pin, and then at the outside we have some control valve, and then valve spring, discharge tube, and followed by the discharge horn. Now what about the working? In as far as working is concerned, the safety pin will be removed at first place. Okay, and then using the handle, we are going to press at the top, and when we press at the top, then the liquefied carbon dioxide from inside will come out through the discharge tube. And when it comes out, the volume will get decreased. When the volume get increased, and when the volume increases, the pressure will drop, and due to the drop in pressure, the temperature will also get greatly reduced, which means that a cool carbon dioxide is coming out from the in the gaseous form is coming out from the discharge tube through the discharge horn. And this low temperature carbon dioxide will be exposed to the fire, and as time goes, the fire will be extinguished in a proper way. So this is regarding the working of carbon dioxide fire extinguishers. What are the advantage? Carbon dioxide fire extinguisher is used for electrical accidents, class C fires, because carbon dioxide is electrically non-conductive in nature, and they do not contaminate the food, and they are non-corrosive in nature, so no residues also left. What are the disadvantages? As we know, carbon dioxide is one of the highly suffocating gas, so which can lead to unconsciousness, and there is also another danger of ignition. These carbon dioxide fire extinguishers are ineffective with the class A fires. So applications, they are specifically designed for class B and class C fires, where class C is especially the electrical equipments things, and then they are frequently found in laboratories, mechanical rooms, machinery spaces, or pump rooms. These are the other examples for firefighting equipments. The first one is fire hoses, which we have commonly seen along with this fire truck. So through which the large amount of water will be splashed into the fires. And then fire buckets, which is usually filled with sand. Next followed by fire blankets or welding blankets, which are used to put over the fire in order to put off it. And then flame zob, which is a special absorbent material which is used for putting out the fire. And finally, fire sprinklers, which is installed in the building during the designing and construction of the building in order to make them work during the fire accident by sprinkling the water over the fire, and thereby fire accidents will be stopped. The final topic for this discussion is prevention and safety measures. Again, it's going to be a summary of whatever points we have already discussed. And as we are mentioning, it is very important to understand the basic characteristics of fire. Number one, fire is very fast. And then number two, fire is very dark, because fire will result in the emission of smoke. And once a area gets smoked, then we are going to have a poor vision over there. That's what here we are meaning, that fire is dark. And lately, fire is very hot. And when we speak of fire prevention and safety measures, we need to think of three different scenarios. Number one, before fire, what can we do? And then during fire, what are the things we must do? And finally, after fire, what can we do? First thing, before fire. Before fire, before an accident happens, we have no idea whether an accident will happen or not, but still we must take all the precautionary effects. So always it is prevention is better than cure. On that note, we must properly install the smoke alarms in the structure of the buildings, and then we should also place these smoke alarms on every level of the residence. So not only at the ground floor, it should also be placed at the first floor, second floor, whatsoever. How many floors are there? In every possible floor, we must install this smoke alarms. And we can also go for the alternate carbon monoxide detector, which is present in the which is usually placed in the area of bedrooms. And then we need to test and clean the smoke alarms once a month. And before fire, during the cooking process, we have to be very attentive towards the cooking. So we should not leave the cooking unattended, and we should also keep the towels readily available in order to uh, manage some small fire outbreaks, and we should never use the oven to heat our home. And then escaping the fire, we need to have a clear escape plan in a building. So we need to review the escape plan and routes along with our family members. It's not that we all as an individual alone should know. We must also make our family members and friends to have a clear awareness on all the escape routes which are available in the building. We should also make sure that the windows are nailed properly. And then we need to teach the family members to teach low, to stay low, which means that in case of any fire outbreaks, then we must to crawl with our hands. This knowledge should be available with all the family members. For that, we need to communicate this idea with the our dear ones. And then heating source, we must place the space heaters away from flammable materials, and then proper selection of fuel is also must for heating sources. And finally, electrical wiring should be made in such a way that there is no loose connections and then loose plugs. These kind of things should be avoided, and we should also make sure that wiring does not run over any nails that is present in the building. Next comes during fire. In case of any fire outbreaks, and in case because of that our dress is getting catch with fire, then the first thing we must do is we must stop, and then we must drop ourselves into the floor, and we should start to roll on the floor. This will enable us to put off some of the fire, and we should not get panic. We must call the fire department, and we must also check the closed doors with hand to feel the heat. So in case if you are in your room and we don't have any idea whether the adjacent room is on fire or not in case the door is closed. So to know that, first we must place our hands on the door, and we must have a good feel on, good feel in the sense that we should clearly sense whether the door is very hot, which will give us a basic understanding on whether a fire outbreak has happened in the adjacent room or not. After that, we can open that door and we can make our escape plan accordingly. And in case the escape route is blocked, then we should feel free to shut that door and use another door immediately without any panicness. And after fire, once we are out of the building which is caught in a fire accident, then we must stay out. We should not go inside for any reasons as long as the fire outbreak is present inside the building. And if you are with a burn victim, if you are having some burn in our body due to the fire, then we need to call, cool, and cover our burns until the emergency unit arrive, and we must take proper care of our health. We must tell the fire department if any other person is trapped inside the building. After coming out ourselves, we should not just think of ourselves alone. In case of any other person who was caught in the apartments or so, then we must properly inform the authorities and the fire department, so which will enable them to take the persons who are caught inside the fire to come out of it. We must enter the home only when the proper authority is given from the fire department people. If they say go in, then go. If not, very simple, stay out and do not go back to the building. So this is regarding the fire hazards, where we started with the basic introduction of fire hazards. Then we moved on to discuss about the different types of fire hazards. Then we have been discussing about the fire protection. What are the different ways and measures we can use to protect ourselves from fire? It was followed by fireproof materials and then firefighting equipments. And in particular, we have been discussing about the fire extinguisher, especially carbon dioxide fire extinguishers. And finally, we are again back to fire safety measures, what we can do before the fire, during the fire, and after fire. Hope all these three part of the video lecture helped you in a proper understanding of Unit 5. Thank you.